How's everyone doing today? Welcome back to On The Ball. Welcome back to another episode of Review the Prem, where me and my brother go head-to-head in predicting Premier League outcomes. It is Week 12 review this week. It's 106 to Sim, 118 to me. And the way the scoring works, it's 5 points for a completely correct scoreline, 1 point for a correct result. And the star man, once you pick that man, you can't pick them again for the rest of the season. 5 points for a goal, 2 points for an assist. Let's get into the weekend's action, starting off at the King Power. Chelsea won by 2-1. Sim went for 2-0. I went for 3-1. And it looked like you were on your way to 5 points until Jordan Ayew scored a 95th minute penalty. But, I mean, it was pretty much one-way traffic for the majority, wasn't it?
Steve Cooper's last game as well. He did end up losing his job after this one, which actually took a lot of, I think, was pretty surprising, even though he hasn't been doing an incredible job. Still, to sack him when a team like Leicester, who were very much a lot of people's, one of their favourites to go down, and they're currently outside the relegation zone, albeit by a point. It was a bit of a surprise that they've gone that way. Obviously, Chelsea, were by far the better team in this one. Jackson's goal, I thought, I think they had a goal ruled out, and then Jackson scored after in the first half. He bundled his way through Wout Faust and was a good finish, but I thought it was poor defending from Leicester for that one. They did get the second goal. Who scored the second goal? It was Enzo after a shot from Jackson, falls to Enzo, and it was 2-0. I don't think Chelsea were amazing, but they were much better than Leicester. I think Leicester very much was second best and didn't really threaten Chelsea, to be honest. They didn't really have too many opportunities. They did have a penalty shout, though, which a lot of people thought should have been a penalty, with Fofana, I think was a handball, and the referee didn't give it to them. They did get that penalty late on, which Jordan Ayew dispatched. And to be fair, I thought in the last 20 minutes, actually, I thought when Chelsea scored, Leicester did had a few moments at that point. But obviously, they got the second goal, and Leicester couldn't really respond. They did get that late goal, but it was too much. It was a good win for Chelsea, because away from home is never easy in the Premier League, and just keeps them ticking over. They're still in third place, and only a point behind Man City now, so fair play to them. Yeah, but what do we think of the Cooper sacking, and who do we think could be in the running?
Yeah, they were saying Graham Potter, but apparently that's been ruled out now. What I found interesting,
Moyes, potentially?
Moyes, I don't know if they'll go for Moyes. I think they want probably a more attacking manager, because I don't know if you saw, but the players went away to Copenhagen straight after this game, and they all had a party. They literally had a party because they knew the manager was going to get sacked, and one of the players, they were holding up a sign saying, "We miss you, Enzo." And I was like, and that was before the sacking was actually announced. And I was like, that is not a good look. That is really not a good look.
There were rumours, I don't know how true they are, but there were rumours that the board, some of the board members, or I think the chairman, had a big meeting with some of the main players after the game, and he was asking them about what they think of Cooper. And according to one of the sources, this is again Footy Insiders, I don't know how true it is, but according to this source, the one of the main players said, his tactics are shit basically, and we want to change. Like we don't believe in him. We don't think he's going to keep us up. And off the back of that, they decided to sack him. I don't know how true it is, but apparently, according to more reliable sources like the Telegraph, they were saying that Steve Cooper was very much shocked when he got the call and the decision. So I don't think he's done terribly. I mean, they are outside the relegation zone. I mean, let's be honest, it is by a point, but still their squad, I don't know how. Let's be honest, going into the season, they were always going to be in a relegation dogfight, weren't they? It was always going to be close. I don't think they were ever going to be safe by a clear margin, especially at this stage of the season. So I don't know in terms of results-wise how much more he could have done, but I do think performance-wise it's definitely been quite underwhelming.
I mean, you look at their results of late. I mean, they are on a bad run of results. They're on a run of 4 straight, 3 losses and a draw in their last 4 games, right? Lost to Chelsea, lost to Man United, draw to Ipswich away, and a loss to Forest. I mean, apart from the Ipswich game, which is a draw, which is fair enough. I mean, Ipswich go down to 10 men and they get a late equaliser. You expect them to lose pretty much all those games. Forest, maybe not, but Forest have been flying high this season, and they're riding that wave. So, I mean, there's not many losses there which you don't expect the Leicester team that have just come up not to lose.
I guess the 2 wins they had, they beat Bournemouth at home, were 1-0 when they were quite lucky.
Beat Southampton away.
But they beat Southampton away, they were 2-0 down, and they had to score a 90th minute goal and rely on a red card as well on that one. So I guess the theory is, like, even when they're winning, it's not been the most convincing.
But they're just a promoted side. They've just come up.
But when I do, to be fair, when I do see them in terms of performance, regardless of results, when I do see them compared to Ipswich and Southampton, I do see a bit more from those two in terms of how they play compared to Leicester, where they're very much not in games a lot of the time, and they just rely on like counter attacks and moments, and a lot of the time they're getting dominated. Like Ipswich, whatever you want to say about them, like. They're much better team than Leicester, I think, in terms of coaching wise. I think they're a much better coach team than Leicester.
Fair enough, but I mean, the reality is that Leicester have put more points on the board than both of those teams.
I know. I'm just saying that's I guess the theory that if they got a manager who can implement some sort of way of playing, maybe that, you know, considering that right now they're not kind of putting any sort of performances on the table and still getting a few points, if they can get to match the performances as well, maybe they'll start to get even more points.
Also, I felt like it probably was the wrong appointment. First of all, because of the whole Leicester Nottingham Forest kind of rivalry there. It was terrible in that aspect. But also, it's a bit like going from Poch to Mourinho, just not in that kind of level, right? You just go from an all-out attacking manager from Enzo to a really defensive manager in Cooper when you've got a squad that was built under Enzo. It just didn't make too much sense in that aspect as well.
Yeah, I agree. Albeit, I thought, you know, considering it's 12 games into the season, you can argue it's harsh, but I also feel like it was an uncomfortable relationship between the fans and the manager. We've seen it so many times, you know, when Benitez went to Everton, and even when we've had Mourinho and stuff, like, the fans just never took to them. And I think this was another case of it.
Yeah.
So
in terms of Chelsea, though, third in the league now, going really well. They've got quite a favourable run. I mean, they've got a couple of hard games in their next 3, but I feel like from now until the end of December, they've actually got quite a decent run in terms of fixtures. Do you think that they could be there to fight for the title this year?
No. I don't think they're going to be in the title race. I've watched them this season. Don't get me wrong; they've had some good displays. I just haven't seen enough. I'm not impressed enough to suggest they could be in a title race. In my opinion,
who are you impressed by, though?
Yeah, no one. And I think Liverpool at the moment, even Liverpool, we'll get onto them later, I'm not that impressed by. But I watched Chelsea, and I think obviously they've got unbelievable front line. I think Maresca's doing a really good job. Even in this game, though, like, they played well and they won the game, but I don't know. I didn't watch them thinking, wow, they're incredible. I think they did enough to beat this Leicester team, but I'm still not sure about Chelsea. Whether I think they're definitely still going to be in the top 4 dogfight, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the teams. I'm just not really impressed by anyone. And Chelsea have shown the ability, I guess, not as much, not more than anyone else, like Arsenal and Brighton and Spurs to a certain extent. It's still very tight between all these sides. But Chelsea do seem to be getting results. I know it's only 2 wins in their last 5 games, but when you're looking at the fixtures from now until the end of December, I do expect them to be still in and amongst it by the end of December.
Well, let's see if they can go on. Look, we have to see them put a run of wins together. We haven't really seen them do that yet. We haven't seen anyone do that yet, but we're talking about Chelsea, and we haven't seen them do that yet as well. So let's see if they can do it. I feel like there's a few more bumps in the road for them, I think.
Yeah, I feel like that with everyone, though. Right? I feel like there's going to be bumps in the road for Liverpool. Man City are going through their bump now. Arsenal, have they been through their bump? Are they coming out the other end now? We don't know. So look, it's anyone's game at the moment. It feels like literally anyone can win the league this season at this moment in time.
Well, at this moment in time, it doesn't look like that, I would say. At the moment, it looks like Liverpool running away with it. But because they're so far clear. At the end of the day, look, we'll go into Liverpool. But at the end of the day, until they're caught up, like, they're at least 3 games clear of their nearest rival.
Yeah, but it's so early on.
Still, 3 games is, you know, no one's really putting back-to-back wins together, so to be 3 games clear is significant.
Yeah, I do think those bumps are going to come, but we'll get into Liverpool in a minute. Let's go to Arsenal. They won 3-0 against Nottingham Forest. Back to winning ways at the Emirates. Sim went for 2-1. I went for 1-1, and Sim gets a point on the board here. I mean, it was a very good performance from Arsenal. Back at it, really.
That was probably their strongest display of the season against the Forest side, who have been playing really well and tough to beat, albeit just before the international break they did get a bit of a reality check against Newcastle, and this was even more one. They dominated. Forest came to play their usual game, and Arsenal I think from an attacking perspective, they looked a lot sharper, a lot more incisive, a lot more creative in this game than they have for a very long time. Interestingly, I think they dropped Havertz for this game.
And Rice.
So maybe there's even more evidence of them using their squad a bit and coming up with a few fresh results. Obviously, Odegaard's made a massive difference. I thought he was brilliant when he came back against Chelsea. And in even that game, I thought Arsenal were well worth a point, at least at that game. And now they've beaten Forest 3-0, so there are definitely signs of them coming back to their best.
Yeah, it feels like their attacking fluidity is solely based on Martin Odegaard. That's what it seems like, because they just look so disjointed before him coming back. He came back off the bench straight away. He gets an assist. I think, did he start that game against Chelsea, or he just came on?
He started, I think.
And then even Chelsea was one of their best performances of recent weeks. And now 2 weeks off, didn't get called up by Norway, and they had their best performance of the season, 3-0 at home to Nottingham Forest, which you probably say is a result which they probably all expected. But Nottingham Forest have been very good away from home. Even I predicted a draw in the game. So you've got to give credit to Arsenal for just wiping the floor with them, really.
And it's just those little things, like that little pass to Saka for the first goal. Like, I don't think anyone else in the Arsenal squad but him would see that pass, and that's the difference he makes. And obviously Saka still had to do a lot of work, and it was a brilliant goal, but just that little pass inside the box, that little bit of incisiveness, that little bit of guile is definitely what's been missing for Arsenal. So as long as they can keep him fit and keep him firing, then, you know, they've got a chance to go on a run. But to be fair, earlier in the season he was fit, and I still didn't think Arsenal looked the same. So as much as they look very good now, it's about doing it, you know, consistently, because if they're going to catch up Liverpool, they're still 9 points behind. So it's still going to be a big effort to catch them up. But when you're playing like that, then that's the Arsenal that can challenge for a title, when they're playing in that kind of way, because they didn't concede many chances. Forest were very stale. They didn't look very good, to be honest, and maybe we're going to see Forest starting to drop down the table now.
Yeah, I think so. But Arsenal as well, they've got a really good run of fixtures now where they do have it in them to go on a big run and put many wins on the board. And if they do, let's say, go now and go 5-6 wins on the trot, then I think that gap between them and Liverpool will definitely be shortening.
Well, West Ham just got a result, so away could be the worst time to be a West Ham away, probably.
Yeah, let's hope so. Let's go to Villa against Palace next. It finished 2-2. Sid went for 2-0. I went for 2-1, both in the favour of Aston Villa. I mean, what is going on at Aston Villa at the moment? They just can't buy a win at the moment. They were like looking really good in terms of their results up until the Spurs game. They got battered at Spurs. I don't think they've won a game since. So yeah, worrying signs for Unai Emery and Aston Villa. Crystal Palace still can't find that win since they beat Spurs. It's a weird dynamic, isn't it? Because Crystal Palace broke their duck. They beat Spurs and they haven't won yet. And Aston Villa got battered by Spurs and haven't won yet. So I'm not sure what to read into that. Probably nothing. But I'm looking at Aston Villa and just something doesn't seem right there. And I'm looking at Crystal Palace. They probably put in a good display and took a good point away from Villa Park. Yeah,
and I think Palace were well worth the point, looking at the balance of play. It was a crazy moment in this game, though. Obviously, Palace take an early lead through a brilliant through ball to Sarr, who with a really good finish, and they're going to need Sarr to be doing a bit more of that, because he's come into the side this season and is really flattered to deceive, and they need him to start actually adding the output, because they've really missed Elise. So Sarr adding those goals is going to be important. Obviously, Villa then equalised through Ollie Watkins, and then they get a penalty in just before half time, and there was a perfect opportunity for Villa to go into half time, having turned it around. Tielemans then misses it, and then from the resulting corner, which Henderson makes a save from, Palace then break on them and score from that corner. So what could have gone to 2-1 to Villa goes to 2-1 to Palace going into half time. And the teenager for Crystal Palace scoring his first goal, really nice finish as well.
Justin Devaney,
who's
17 years of age.
Yeah, played a few games for them now, but he's, what a moment for him. And just one of those very Leicester, Watford, Deeney-esque moment for Crystal Palace for the away fans. And then, but they couldn't hold on, unfortunately. Barkley gets a header from a corner. But Villa just, at the moment, look a bit lacklustre. Just, they're not creating, I feel like, the same level of opportunities. Watkins, I know he's got 6 goals this season, but he doesn't seem to be as fresh as he looked for large parts of last season, in my opinion, as much as he's still scoring goals. They're not, since they've lost Louise and Diaby, and Bailey's completely gone off the boil. I mean, I don't see where the goals are coming midfield. Rodgers is playing brilliantly, but he's not much of a goal scorer. They're then relying on people like McGinn and Ramsey, who have their who have their strengths, but again, goal scoring I don't think is probably... I mean, I guess Ramsey can, but he hasn't been this season. Again, they're not massive goal scorers. They're not players you expect to definitely be hitting between 5 and 10 goals. And then Luiz obviously has been replaced by Onana. Onana's got a few goals, but Luiz was definitely a player who was getting free kicks, long shots, penalties. He was getting goals. I think he got like 10 goals last season. Onana, I don't think is going to get that. So I think they're much more reliant on Watkins, and obviously Duran's come in, but his goals from off the bench have dried up a bit now. So all of a sudden, you're looking at the Villa side and you're like, I don't know where... I'm not sure if they got enough goals in them to keep up with the top 4 at the moment, where you look at, the other teams competing up there and they seem to be a bit more free scoring than them. And as well, they've never really been a team that keep many clean sheets. Like everyone talks about Tottenham last season for how many goals they conceded, yet Villa conceded, I think, 1 less than Tottenham last season. So also a team who are also always open when that happens and the goals are drying up a bit. Then all of a sudden it's leading to these inconsistent results.
Yeah, it's true, but you do think that there is enough quality in there to like kind of turn around this kind of phase of results. And the players that you just mentioned that are off the boil at the moment, they are all good players. So surely they'll be able to turn it around. And Unai Emery is a good manager as well.
But that's what I'm saying. I'm saying last season they had Luiz, they had Diaby, and a Bailey on form. Now, Bailey's historically been quite an inconsistent player. He always has 1 year on form, 1 year off form. So this could be a period where he's off form. Diaby they've lost, and they replaced him. They haven't really replaced him, didn't they? They brought in Philogene, who was a championship winger. We don't know if he's got it in him to replace those goals. Onana, I don't think, as much as Onana could be player-wise as good as Luiz, is he going to make up for the 12 goals Luiz got last season? I don't think so. And then you're heavily relying on Watkins. Is Watkins going to be scoring again, 20 goals and 15 assists like he did last season? On this season's evidence, he might still get a good tally, but is he going to get what he got last season? I'm not 100% sure. Obviously, Duran has been filling in with the goals, but again, he was getting a lot of goals off the bench, and right now doesn't seem to be happening last few weeks. So
they need to start him. Unai Emery needs to find out a way to put Watkins and Duran in the starting lineup, and I think they will get the goals.
I don't know. I just don't know if there's enough goals there from midfield. I just don't know if there's enough goals from midfield. Yeah, when I say Ramsey and McGinn, good players, are they reliable goal scorers?
Yeah, I guess not. But I mean, where should they be finishing this season in terms of what their squad is? So I think it was an overachievement last year. Finishing the top 4.
And I don't think they improved on their squad over the summer because they lost Luiz and Diaby. And
surely they should be happy and they got enough quality to finish in the Europa League spaces this year.
Look, at the end of the day, it's their first season back in the Champions League for however long. That's going to be their main focus this season. And I think most Villa fans, if you offered them right now a really good run in the Champions League and kind of a Europa League finish, they'll probably take that, because I think they will accept there probably would be a drop off in the league. So I think when it comes to that, look, it's not too bad. But I also think that I don't know how far they will go in the Champions League, and then if they say go out in the Champions League in like round of 16 or something, and then there's a drop off on top of that, all of a sudden there's a feeling that they're making a step backwards, and that's not a good feeling. So I still think, look, top 7 or something is definitely achievable for them, but right now they got to find another source of goals, because I think they're just too heavily reliant on Watkins right now.
Yeah. In terms of the bad run that they have been having, though, I'm just trying to look at what they've been doing, like, because they've lost like games against Liverpool, which you kind of expect them to lose, away at Tottenham, which is a hard game, Bournemouth, a draw. So they have had a hard run of fixtures now, haven't they? They
have, but I remember when we played them, I was doing a preview for the game, and I was saying even before that, I felt they were getting away with a few results, especially away from home. Like the Fulham one, they could have easily lost that game, and a penalty and a red card just turned it out of nothing. The draw at home to United, they were pitiful in that game, I thought. Before that, they drew away Ipswich 2-2, where they easily could have lost that game. They weren't very good in that game as well. So I think performance-wise, it hasn't been great in the last few weeks for Villa, even with when they've not been losing. So, and even then, those were draws; they weren't even wins. Obviously, it was in between that there was a win against Bayern, so that keeps the good feeling. But since that Ipswich game, what was that, 1 win in the last 6-7 games or something? So, I mean, they haven't been performing. In even those games they've been getting results, haven't been performing too well. So, at the moment, there's been definitely a bit of an alarming drop off over the last few weeks for Villa.
Yeah, and even with that form and those run of results, they're still only 3 points outside of Chelsea.
That's how tight it is.
It's crazy.
That's how tight it is. Yeah.
It's like you can win one game in 6 and not like drop too far below.
Because everyone's beating each other. The league is so tight. But that's why it's important at the moment to focus on performance-wise, because results can very much vary, like it is with everyone. But you've got to see how teams are playing, and I think consistently they're not playing that well at the moment.
Fair. Bournemouth against Brighton next. Brighton won by 2-1 at the Vitality, and a really, really good result for Brighton. Both of us went for 2-1 to Bournemouth. João Pedro, unbelievable since he's come back. Goal and assist to beat Manchester City just before international break, and now another goal and assist at the Vitality, where Bournemouth looked like a really strong outfit, didn't they? Beating Man City there, beating Arsenal there. I think, did they get a draw against Chelsea, or just about narrowly lost to Chelsea, where they should have got a better result? I can't remember exactly. But
Brighton?
Bournemouth.
Oh, Bournemouth. They missed a penalty and they lost.
That was it, yeah. So I feel like this is a really good result for Brighton. I feel like Bournemouth, the way they played, though, they probably deserve a bit more out of the game.
Yeah, I think Bournemouth will be kicking themselves with the chances they missed, especially Brighton going down to 10 men and then them getting a goal back. You're thinking, okay, obviously they got a goal back in the 90th minute, but they definitely missed a lot of chances in this one, Bournemouth, and they'll be very annoyed that they probably didn't take advantage of most of them. Brighton, they found their moments. I don't think it was the best performance from them, but you look at the goals they scored and the movement and the moves they put together were brilliant, and they found those moments of quality. I thought the passing moves for the first one between Welbeck and Rutter, and then João Pedro as well, and Rutter got the shot, falls to João Pedro, and he scored. Brilliant passing move, and the move for the second goal was exceptional, and a brilliant through ball from João Pedro. Matoma running on the blind side of the defender, and bam, it's 2-0. And I didn't even think they played that well, but they got a 2-goal lead just because the quality of their play. They picked their moments. But definitely Bournemouth will be frustrated because they were probably the team of the ascendancy for a lot of that game. They were the ones making a lot of the chances, and they didn't take advantage of them. Evan Nilsson missed quite a number of chances. Semenyo didn't quite have his shooting boots on, so wasn't the best day for Bournemouth. Look, it's one of those where you just take on the chin. It was a close game, and when you're Bournemouth, you don't expect to win every game, but it'll just be frustrating because probably should have taken something out of it. But what a win for Brighton, and what a season they're having at the moment. Brighton in fifth. There don't seem any signs of them letting up at the moment. They're very, very consistent, and they've got quite a deep depth in the forward line. As you say, João Pedro's been missing for a few weeks, and he's now back in. People like O'Reilly had a big injury, and he came back in last game and scored the winner. Welbeck still having the season of his life. Rutter's really starting to show what he's about now after he signed for 40 million in the summer. So really exciting times for Brighton at the moment.
Yeah, and they've even got players out, like Minte has been out for a while, who had such a good start to the season. Solly March, who's been such an important player for them for the past couple of years. These players are nowhere to be seen at the moment, and they're still it doesn't decrease their performance level.
Yeah.
Or their results that they're getting. So
when I compare the unlikely chasers for like a top four finish, compared to there's a lot of teams maybe overperforming, like you could say Brighton, Forest, Fulham, these kind of teams, even to an extent Brentford. But when I compare Brighton to those teams, Brighton just look so much more well suited to sustain it rather than the other teams.
Well, they were the biggest spenders of the Premier League in the summer, so that just is a testament to how well that club is actually run. But yeah,
but Baleba did get sent off, and that could be a big blow going into next game.
Who do they have next, Brighton?
They have, it is Southampton, but Southampton did give Liverpool a run for their money, so True. You can't, and City as well, so can't take anything for granted, and Baleba could be a big miss. But it's only one game.
Everton against Brentford next. It finished 0-0. Both of us going for 1-1, so we both get a point on the board on this one. I think it was just a classic Everton game at Goodison Park. You're looking at the Premier League's entertainers in Brentford this season, the amount of goals that are being scored for and against in every single game. It was quite a surprise that it was 0-0, but maybe we should have expected it with the way Everton do like to play their football.
Yeah, I think it was quite a close game, and then Norgard gets sent off with a poor challenge on the stroke at half time, and then from Brentford's point of view, it's just a case of digging in deep and trying to grind out a point out of this game. I don't think there was much adventure to try and win the game, albeit they did actually have a chance late on to actually win it, even with 10 men. I think Everton, again, fans will be frustrated. You've got a whole half against 10 men, and I know Brentford are a good team, but still, you should be in the same ballpark as them. I think you should be expected to be challenging with a team like Brentford if you're Everton, and you've got a whole half against a team 10 men, and you can barely really hurt them. I mean, they didn't create too much in that. They had 14 shots, but you know, the next year of 0.7. I mean, it's not like the worst, but you know, when you've got a whole half against 10 men, you expect to create a bit more, and they just weren't able to open up Brentford on too many occasions. And another frustrating performance for Everton. To be fair, didn't lose, which is positive, but again. They've now drawn 3 of the last 4, only won 1 of the last 5. So after they had a good run after a really poor start, results are not been fantastic for them. Again, not losing too many games, which is when you're down in the bottom is important. But I think fans will be frustrated. They didn't really look like winning this game even against 10 men, and that will be frustrating.
Yeah, definitely. Fulham against Wolves. They finished 4-1 to Wolves at Craven Cottage. What a result that is for Wolves, and they are banging form at the moment. Four games now, no losses. It's followed them from 2 all draws. They went last week and beat Southampton by 2-0, and they've backed it up this weekend with a 4-1 win against Fulham. And it was kind of Matthias Cunha show once again. I mean, what a goal he scored in this game, and what a great form this guy is on. I think this guy is brilliant. Matthias Cunha, he really is. He's a top player, and I think a top club or a big club has got to snap him up sooner rather than later. And I was surprised it didn't happen in the summer just gone.
Yeah, I think obviously they've lost a lot of top talent over the last few years, and someone different seemed to step up every year. When Neves left, Neto stepped up last year, he's gone, and now Cunha seems to be stepping up this year. And he was always a player, even when he was at Atletico, and he's had Brazil caps before. He's always been a player where he looks brilliant on the ball, and he runs at you, and he's one of those players who can like go past you like you're not there. But he's always had that little bit of frustration in the final third where he doesn't pick the right options, or his finishing's a bit off, and he always seemed to have something missing out of his game. But this season, I don't know whether I guess last season as well, actually, he did score quite a few goals, didn't he? So he's really starting to find that efficiency in the final third, and everyone knew once he hit that he was going to become a special player, and I think he's becoming that for us. I do think they're a bit of a one-man team, to be honest, at the moment, all surrounded by Matthias Cunha. When he's missing, I don't know who else would step up for them, because they're pretty much relying on him scoring worldies at the moment. That first goal, wow, that was like Bergkamp-esque, that goal. It was incredible. There was a long ball forward from the halfway line from Lamina. He just takes it over his head. He picks it out the sky, takes it down, and then just flicks it into the roof of the net. What a goal. And then the second goal curls it into the top corner from 25 yards with one touch. Just absolutely outstanding. And when he's in that kind of mood, when you're Wolves, all you know is you just got to keep it tight, make sure you're not conceding chances, because you know that Matthias Cunha can pull a rabbit out of the hat, and he pulled out 2 rabbits just on the weekend. Absolutely brilliant. And as you say, the form he's been showing the last couple of seasons, surely he's not going to be staying at Wolves for too long, because he's just been absolutely outstanding. And it's just a matter of time by the looks of things. And he's really pulling them out of trouble at the moment. Unbeaten in 4 now, and outside the relegation zone.
Yeah, he's really turned it around there, where it looked like they just couldn't buy a win, and now they are on some good form. And I think if they carry this on, surely they'll be in no danger of the drop. Because I actually think, you say about one-man team, I do think they've got quite a number of players in there that could probably go on to bigger and better things than Wolves and being in a relegation scrap. I look at Ryan Ait-Nouri, I think he's a really good player. I look at João Gomez, he's a really good player, and Strand Larsen, who's having a really good season as well.
I just think if Cunha picked up an injury, they'd go down. That's my opinion.
That's fair. But those other players are very good players as well.
They did good players. All Premier League teams have good, decent players. I'm not obviously that he's not their only good player, but they are very much solely reliant on him when it comes to scoring goals. I feel. I'm even looking at the last few games, like Southampton, he scored an absolute worldie in that one. The Brighton game, he scored in the last minute, a deflection, but he scored in the last minute. Against Palace, he didn't score, but he was very central to both the goals they did score. Like every time they score it, he seems to be central to it. So I just think they're very reliant on him. Top
player. Let's go to the Etihad up next, or should I say the Dekihad, as Spurs beat Manchester City by 4-0 in a result that nobody saw coming. If you look at the predictions, Sim went 3-2 to City. I went 4-2 to City, but this was an annihilation of the Premier League four-time champions. It really was. I think first 10 minutes, Man City came out the traps pretty well, had a couple of chances, but Spurs dug deep in those first 10 minutes. But once Spurs got the goal, I mean, there was no other team that was going to win that game.
What an absolute shock this was on the weekend. Spurs to completely smash the four-time champions Man City. As much as Man City last few games have been struggling, 4 defeats on the bounce going into this game, no one expected such an annihilation. And I think Spurs played it to perfection. Maddison and Decky running rings around that Man City backline. Maddison coming back into the team and showing everyone what Spurs were missing while he was out with 2 brilliantly taken goals. And Spurs were just so efficient, so breathtaking on the break, so brilliant in possession. But what they did differently in this game compared to maybe previous weeks is off the ball, just compact, making it difficult for Man City to break them down. Very similar to how they defended, to be fair, in the Carabao Cup game against Man City. But you would have thought adding Erling Haaland into that, Man City could overturn it, but it didn't happen. Even with Haaland on the pitch, he had a few chances, didn't have his shooting boots on, and Spurs were just ruthless, absolutely ruthless on the counter-attack, and showed a different side to them maybe away from home in this game, as we've seen. But Man City, what is going on with Man City? To be fair, as much as it's 5 defeats in a row and it's a crisis, and everyone's all of a sudden the team is looking old and aging, they are still second. So I mean, if most Man City's crisis is most team ceiling at the moment, but definitely there's something going on there, because without Rodri, especially also no Kovacic, the legs in midfield are just not there. Walker doesn't have the pace to bail himself out anymore. All of a sudden you're looking at that front line, and apart from Haaland, all of a sudden you're like, where are the goals coming from? Savinho hasn't got a goal this season. Foden's been off the boil. As much as he's a goal scorer, he's been off the boil. Grealish has never been a goal scorer. Doku is injured at the moment, but he's never been much of a goal scorer. Bernardo, he's never been much of a goal scorer. And they've let go of Alvarez, who was obviously usually second in the goal scoring charts since he's come in to Haaland. And after him, after Haaland, who do you see getting like 10 plus goals? De Bruyne is probably the one, but he's been injured a lot, and he's been injured a lot for the last couple of years now, and he's getting old. So I don't actually know, as much as there's a big problem with them in midfield, which is leading to them being counted on and transitioned on a lot. But then I'm also looking at them going forward. And apart from Haaland, who can probably score enough for a whole squad's worth if you give him a chance to, where are these goals coming from?
Should be coming from Foden, it should be coming from De Bruyne, and it should be coming from Erling Haaland. Those 3 players have bags of goals in them, all 3 of them. So I don't think Man City should be ringing the alarm bells just yet. I think the injury to Rodri has hit them for 6, and it's not. I do think this probably stems further than just the injury to Rodri. I do feel like Man City, they've just got the ability though to turn it on at any given moment in time, and I feel like there's definitely enough goals in there, 100%.
I don't know. I'm starting to question that now. Apart from Haaland. Haaland's got enough. As I say, Haaland can score enough goals, to. For a whole team's worth.
Foden can't get 10 to 15 goals?
He can, but he's off form at the moment.
Yeah, right, in this moment in time.
He's off form, but I'm saying, after Foden, he's scored a lot of goals last season. I don't know how many goals it was. Was it 20 goals or 15 goals? He's got the ability, but he's, since the Euros, he's been off form. And I feel like they don't have a backup striker. And I feel like at this moment in time, that's hurting them. They're wide players. Is there enough going on out wide? Doku, great player, but last season, I think half his assist tally came in 1 game. Is he a player who's actually efficient in the final third as much as he's very good at dribbling? Savinho, again, very good dribbler, looks bright, but at the moment, he's not getting too many goal contributions.
This is Manchester City we're talking about. They've won the league the past 4 years. Yes, they've always stuttered in the first half of the season. Never this bad. They've never been this bad.
This is unprecedented.
This is, 100% agree. But, they can easily go sign like a Zubimendi in January, and then from January onwards just go on a run of like 15 winning games and then go and win the league. You wouldn't be surprised if that happened.
They need to sign. I think it's very much reliant. I think their season is reliant on them signing someone in January.
No way they don't dip into the market in January in a strong way.
They have to. I think they need to sign an attacker, and I think they need to sign a number 6 desperately. And if they do that, the fear is, could they already be out of the race by that time? By the looking at them dropping like a stone right now, which is a big concern. Albeit, what I think the caveat to that would be, They were terrible against Bournemouth, where they deserved to lose. They were terrible against us, where we deserved to beat them. But when you look at their performances against Sporting and Brighton, especially the Brighton game, they were 1-0 up until the last 10 minutes in that game and could have easily seen that out, and actually weren't as bad as maybe the other results suggest, and actually could have gotten something out of that game. Sporting, they lost 4-1, but they missed a penalty and they missed a host of chances, and again they were just being transitioned on, but they could have been 3-0 up before they were pegged back in that game, and they just fell apart. I think conceded 3 goals in the first 5 minutes of the second half, didn't they, in that game, and got blown away. So maybe these moments are shadowing their overall performances, where actually the results look a lot worse than performances suggesting. But then you look at the weekend and Walker just looks like a shadow of himself. He doesn't look like he's got the pace to bail him out anymore. That midfield, is that going to be a blueprint until they've signed someone to how to combat that Man City midfield? Because at the moment it just looks old, aging. You look at their squad, they are the 4th oldest squad in the league. Bernardo's aging. Gundogan's 34. Can he patrol midfield? De Bruyne, for the last 2 seasons, has been plagued by injury. He can't stay fit at the moment. And, he's got a big scar on his hamstring. Is that going to be able to hold up for a whole season? As much as he's great when he's on the pitch. There are some genuine question marks about them at the moment, whether they can sustain the title challenge with you've got to remember, in the summer, they only signed Savio. That's the only signing they made. And now Rodri's out for the whole season, who's the best player in the world, Ballon d'Or winner, and the best, such a crucial part to how they play. Without a sufficient backup to him, it's going to be difficult, I feel like, to close that gap on Liverpool. And if they lose to Liverpool, that's 12 points. 11 points. It's 11 points if they lose to Liverpool.
Yeah, but it's a significant gap. It really is, even at this stage of the season. But this is also Man City we're talking about. This is also Pep Guardiola that we're talking about.
But that could grow before January.
Yeah, I know that. But I think they'll get it right at some point. And I think they will be in the title race this season. Do you not think they're going to be in the title race?
But judging from what I'm seeing right now, if they're going to perform like this from now till January, I'm not saying they're not going to win another game, but I think from now to January, I can see that gap getting bigger. That's the worry I've got for them.
Don't give me a politician's answer. Are they going to be in the title race come the end of the season?
Are they going to be in the title race? I don't know if there will be a race. That's the thing. If there is a race, they'll probably be
Liverpool
in it.
Are not going to romp this league. I guarantee you that.
The thing is, by the things of it, they don't even have to romp it to win it comfortably, if you know what I mean. They're just showing consistency, like of a good team.
It's 12 games in.
Huh?
It's 12 games in.
I know it's 12 games in. I know. And Liverpool will drop points, and we'll get into them in a minute. But City just look a bit all over the place at the moment. That's the reality.
It's such a long season ahead. It's such a long season ahead. All these teams are going to come through bumps in the road. And they're all going to go on long runs of form as well.
I don't see how it changes right now until they dip into the market. I'm not saying they're going to lose all their games, but in terms of, look, they've been getting away with it though for a lot of games this season. It's not just this run of games. Fulham, they should have lost that game. They won 3-2. Wolves, they should have drawn that game. They got a last-minute corner and they won the game 2-1. A lot of games this season, they've been getting away with it.
Have had games like that though. Liverpool have had games like that. Arsenal have had games like that.
Yeah, but now they've lost 5 in a row.
Yeah, and it will turn around. They're not going to, just carry on this terrible form from now until the end of December. I just can't see that.
I can't see performances dramatically improving between now and the end of December. They might get results, but I don't see them starting to smash teams again until they address these issues. And I don't think they can until December. I don't think there's any way to do so because they don't have the players.
They were like smashing teams in the early stages of the season and Rodri wasn't playing. So, what's changed?
They weren't smashing. They were winning, but they weren't
were winning
smashing
convincingly. Like, they looked really good.
In what? I don't remember too many games. They beat Chelsea first game of the season.
Before the Arsenal game, I'm saying, they looked actually a really good side.
Did they, though?
Yeah, they did.
They
started the season really well.
They beat Chelsea a first day, which was okay, fair enough. Mm-hmm. They then beat Ipswich 4-1. Okay, yeah. Good result. Beat West Ham 3-1, who were going for a very tough patch. And then since then, I think they've been very unconvincing since that game. Brentford, I thought they were very unconvincing in that game. Inter Milan, unconvincing. Arsenal, extremely unconvincing in that game. Watford in the Cup, scraped past them. Newcastle away, unconvincing. Fulham, unconvincing. should have not won that game. Wolves very much unconvincing. Southampton unconvincing.
Don't we talk about this every single first half of the season?
Yeah, but it's never been this bad, and they've never not had Rodri.
But you just know they've still got Pep Guardiola.
Yeah, but the team's
got a squad stacked of talent.
But the team's a year older. It's another year older. Are they aging? Is this like every team hits a point where it's like, okay, this needs major surgery now? Like,
I don't think it needs major surgery.
I think
it just
might
needs surgery.
I think
it just needs a few tweaks. It just needs a few players to come in.
This might be like, you know, what happened to Klopp a couple years ago when they finished 5th and they just had a really bad year because they needed a lot of changes and they completely refreshed the team and they went on to another title challenge. I don't know. I've got a feeling this might be the year where Man City they're not going to fall apart. I still think they'll be top 4, but I think the title might be beyond them this year by the looks of things. From what I'm saying, if they address things in January, get a CDM in, maybe sign a forward, and they can and they can address some of their issues, then I'll reconsider my position. But I actually think from now till December, I think I can see a lot of struggles for them.
So you're saying no, they won't be in a title race?
No, until they address these issues. I reckon I'm predicting that gap between Liverpool will be more than 8 points between now and December. That's what I think. I think it'll be.
A team like Man City can overturn a.
I'm just saying. So
something like that.
If in January, let's say the gap is 11 points come January, and they address those issues, then maybe I could reconsider my position. I'm saying right now, if they are 11 points, I think they're 8 points behind. They could be 11 points if they lose next week to Liverpool. And I don't see put it this way, if they don't address those issues, I don't think they're in a title race, put it that way. That's what I'll say. If they don't address those issues, they're not in a title race.
I think they've just got a squad stacked of so much quality. They got the best manager in the world. I think they can turn it around.
It's actually not that, it's not that big though, the squad, when you think about it though.
But it's still stacked with quality.
It's got a lot of quality players, but there's a lot of problems that they've got, and the legs in midfield is a big issue. Big issue for me.
Yeah, no, the legs in the midfield are a big issue, but you wouldn't be surprised if they go and beat Liverpool next weekend. You just wouldn't be surprised. And if they do, the whole narrative changes again.
I would be surprised if they beat Liverpool I
wouldn't be that surprised if they go to Anfield and win.
Anyway, let's go on to Liverpool.
All right. They beat Southampton by 3-2. I went for 3-1. You went for 3-0. A very unconvincing win for Liverpool. But Mo Salah having this an unbelievable season yet again. 16 goal contributions in 12 games for Mo Salah. Best player in the Premier League, that's for sure. But, Southampton are actually putting in a few good performances at the moment, but I felt Liverpool got away with one in this one.
100%. All 3 Liverpool goals were given to them by Southampton, let's be honest.
Yeah.
They were gifts. And actually, Liverpool were very unconvincing in this game. They really scraped by because Southampton brought their A game. Southampton were playing a really good counter-attacking game. Some of the football they played was brilliant. The 2 goals they scored, I think obviously one of them was a penalty. Tyler Dibbling, though, what a handful he is. Even against the good teams, he seems to be an absolute handful. And then Fernandes scored a brilliant breakaway goal from Southampton. You thought, wow, they're 2-1 up, half an hour to go. Can they hang on here? But Southampton, they're just so committed to that, playing out the back, especially the first goal. Just gifting it straight to Szoboszlai on the edge of the box for no reason. Absolutely shocking play for them. And then, to be fair, the other 2 goals were not down to playing out the back. It was just shocking. The keeper for the second goal, where is he? What is McCarthy doing? He's no reason to be out that far. And Salah just sees that and just prods it into the empty net, just stretching and puts it in. It's absolutely shocking from McCarthy. I don't know why he's coming out that far from a long ball from Gravenberch. Terrible, terrible decision from him. And then the handball late on. Terrible from Sugawara, I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Who tries to chest it back to the keeper, just gets it all wrong and ends up flicking his arm towards the ball, and it's completely unforced.
I don't know who it was. It wasn't. Maybe it was him actually. Just came on, I think.
Yeah, it's shocking from him. The handball, completely unforced error. So Liverpool actually didn't have to do too much to win this game, and they were gifted 3 goals, in all honesty. So they did very much flatter to deceive, and on that evidence, they have got a lot of tougher tests to come. Obviously, they'll probably count their lucky stars that they got gifted those 3 goals, because it might have been an embarrassing defeat. And to be fair, they didn't really like scoring before gifted those goals.
I know they've been the most consistent team in the league this year, but I've not been too convinced by Liverpool. I think they've been getting away with it in quite a few games this season that they've won. And I do think results will. I think they'll get shown up for it in a bit. I mean, I'm not fully convinced watching them that they can win the league this year.
The thing is, I think they've been the most convincing of everyone else.
Yeah.
I think, and they've had, as much as they haven't been that convincing, and I agree. When we're comparing them to champions of previous years, I agree with you. They're not on that level, 100%, especially how they play. But the thing is, I don't think the league is going to require the 95 or whatever plus points that it usually does.
Agree with that.
And I think right now, it might just need a team to hit about 85 and get that and get there. And I think right now, even though they're not convincing, they definitely look capable of hitting that kind of points mark. I definitely think that.
Yeah, you look at their next few games, they've got some really hard games coming up. They play Man City next, Newcastle away, Everton away, Fulham, Tottenham away. You know, I think they're going to have a bit of a wobble in these next 5 or 6 games to Liverpool.
But they are 8 points clear, so they can afford to drop a few points.
Yeah, but, you know, anyone that goes on a run, because it's so early in the season, you know, anyone that goes on a big run now puts themselves in a really good way, really good chance of doing something special this year. I'm not saying that Arsenal are going to do it. City, I don't know in this moment in time who's going to do it. But anyone in that top 6, top 7 that puts a big run together from now until like the end of December, beginning of January, puts themselves in such a good position.
I agree with you, but at the moment they are 3 games clear of their nearest rivals.
Yeah.
So they have to catch up on 3 wins on them. And Liverpool, and right now, all their rivals as well are not being convincing. They haven't been able to string wins together. And Liverpool have been the only one to do it. So I think right now, Liverpool are massive favourites for this title as we stand.
I don't think so.
I think they are. I can't see anyone else catching them up. Man City look way off it. I think being inconsistent.
See a few teams catching them up over the next 5-6 weeks.
I think
I can see Chelsea doing something. I can see Arsenal doing something. Can't see Spurs. Maybe even Brighton can claw a few points back on them. Man City, I can see it as well.
But I think
this league's anyone's this year.
Liverpool will be top, I think, come Christmas, in my opinion.
Fine, but I don't think they're going to be 8 points clear.
I don't think I can see Man City cutting the gap. I can see maybe Arsenal and potentially Chelsea cutting the gap, but I don't think they're going to do enough to overcome that. And
they don't need to overcome it now, though.
Well, by the end of the season, they do.
Yeah, but we're 12 games in.
Yeah.
So, I mean, let's say like by the end of Christmas, the gap is only 3 points or the gap is 5 points. That's not such a significant
Yeah, but then Liverpool can then extend it again. When the tougher games for Arsenal and Chelsea start coming back, then all of a sudden that gap can open again. So I think they've built up a good lead, 9 points clear of Arsenal and Chelsea with a superior goal difference as well. They've got the best defence in the league at the moment, with only 8 goals conceded. And as much as they might not keep up the consistency that they've got at the moment, the question is, will the teams below them find that consistency? And I'm just as unconvinced that they will, as much as I'm unconvinced that Liverpool will keep this consistency up. I'm just as unconvinced that Chelsea and Arsenal and City and whoever will find that consistency as well. That's what I'm saying.
I get what you're saying, but I just feel like it's anyone's game at the moment. It really is. Like, I think it could be one of those seasons where, you know, like you mentioned before, it could be a low points tally. I think Liverpool are going to have a lot of ups and downs throughout the season. We also don't know. I know they lost against Nottingham Forest and they responded quite well after that, but we don't know how Arne Slot and this Liverpool side under Arne Slot will respond after a blip. We don't know that because it's completely unknown. It's a new manager and everything like that. So Arsenal have a bit of know-how. I wouldn't say know-how, but they know kind of their base level performance in terms of Mikel Arteta. They know they can go on a big run. They proved it last season. They proved it the year before. Chelsea under Enzo Maresca, I don't think they've got enough to go and win the league, but I think they've got enough to be up there. So I think it can be anyone's this year. I really do.
I think at the moment, I mean, Liverpool, 9 points clear is not insignificant at any point, to be honest. To be 9 points clear at the top, like usually when teams are top at this point, there's not a big gap like that. to be between first and second, and as much as I don't see them getting 90 plus points because of I think they will have some drops. I'm just equally unconvinced right now from what I've seen from Chelsea and Arsenal and City and anyone below that someone's going to put a really strong run of wins together to overcome Liverpool and are going to be more consistent than them than what they've shown so far, and that's what's going to be needed.
Yeah, things change very quickly in football. They change very, very quickly, and we just don't know. I think it's such an unknown this season. Like I said, anyone that puts a run together puts themselves in a really good position.
Mm-hmm. I just don't know who's going to do it. That's my point.
Nobody knows who's going to do it, but I think someone will do it.
I don't know. I'm not convinced anyone will at the moment. That's the thing. So I think Liverpool are definitely favourites for this title.
Maybe they are slight favourites, but I don't think it's like massive favourites like what you're saying. I don't think the points tally at this moment in time, in this stage of the season, is as significant as what you're saying.
I think when the league is so tight, when it's let's say between Brentford, who are 11th, and Chelsea, who are in 3rd, there's 5 points. From that point of view, I agree. But when it's 8 points between first and second, I do think that's significant.
Not 12 games in.
I think even 12 games in.
If we're in February, I would agree with you, but not 12 games in, man.
I think an 8-point gap at any stage is significant, in my opinion.
Because there's so much football to be played in this December. By the end of December, would you even be surprised if it's just 3 points in the gap or if it's even level at that stage? There's so much football to be played.
Yeah, but until that point, it's a significant gap. While the gap is at 9 points, it's significant. There's no doubt about it. 9 points is significant.
In what sense, though?
It's hard to overcome.
I don't think it's that hard to overcome.
It is. 9 points is hard.
8 points turns into 5 points, and 5 points isn't that significant. 5 points is just 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
So, at this stage of the season, literally anything can happen. 8 points, you're not saying they're massive favourites because they're 8 points clear at 12 games in.
I think it's significant. I think it is significant.
All right, well, let us know what your thoughts are in the comments section below. But let's move on to Ipswich against Manchester United. Finished 1-1 in Ruben Amorim's first game in charge for Manchester United. I went for 2-0 to Man U. Sim went for 2-2. So Sim gets another point back in this game. And yeah, not too convincing for Ruben Amorim on his first game.
Yeah, I always thought it would be a struggle because I actually think Ipswich are a well-coached team under Kieran McKenna, and we've seen them get good results against good teams this season. Obviously, went away at Spurs and won. They drew with Aston Villa at home 2-2. They actually went away to Brighton and drew 0-0. So as much as the win tally for them doesn't look too good, they have gone actually played quite well against some really top teams, and they don't look out of place in the Premier League, in my opinion, as much as they do obviously need some more wins if they're going to stay up. They do look like a Premier League quality team. So I wasn't surprised that United had a tough time, but after 80 seconds you're thinking, wow, this Amorim guy, this guy's got the magic touch. United go up 80 seconds into his tenure thinking, Jesus, this is what it's going to be like, a goal every 80 seconds. Rashford gets the goal, but then they settled down. Ipswich got into the game, and it was they definitely deserved the equaliser when it came. They're having loads of chances. Onana was the man of the match for Man United, and again Ipswich went to the back three, which they played against Spurs. Seems to be a bit of a new formation they've found at the moment, and they matched up Amorim's back three, and it worked to treat, and they looked much better, much more used to it. They definitely deserved to win. I thought first half they should have been in the lead. Definitely unlucky not to. I thought second half actually was quite even, and I thought second half United came back into it a bit, but again, I don't think United did enough in that second half to suggest they should have won. So I would say draw might have been a fair result, but Ipswich, based on the first half, Ipswich should have won, to be honest.
And Ruben Amorim, obviously, after the game, saying that it's going to take a long time for him to fix the mess, which is Manchester United, not in those words, but probably not what Man United fans want to hear at this moment in time.
I mean, if you're a Man United fan, you're smart. I think you know that was coming.
Yeah.
I think it was, a new system. They're getting used to all these different minutiae of the system that they've, all the details, which they still don't know. They've only had 2 days of training. So from that point of view, that's what you should have expected. But obviously, his first game, you expect a bit of a new manager bounce. Maybe you thought, going to a team in the bottom three, can you get a win on his first day and really show what's to come? They couldn't do that, but I always thought it was going to be difficult for them, even against a team like Ipswich in this game. And so it proved. And until they get some of the players that he wants, it's going to be I'm sure they'll pick up some results along the way, but they will be inconsistent. And I think they'll continue to be inconsistent until probably next season.
Where do you think, they should be aiming to finish this season?
Just get a European spot. that'll be that. If I'm Amorim, if I can get into Europe, that'll be great. I think
try and win a trophy.
I think right now it looks actually unlikely, to be honest. Europe, even though the points are close, I'm just looking at the teams they're up against, and Newcastle, Villa, Tottenham, Brighton. It's going to be. I think it's going to be very difficult to finish above any of those teams, to be honest, if I'm Amorim, especially as I'm new to the Premier League. So if he has to finish 8th or 9th and just move on from there and maybe have a season without Europe, some teams have to go through that. They might be one of them, to be honest.
Yeah, look, you never know. We said it looked highly unlikely for Conte to get top 4 in when he first came into the club. So you never know how a new manager bounce can affect things. And like I keep saying, it's only 12 games in, so a lot can change over the course of the season. And also, I think Man United have quite a good run of fixtures now. So if they can put a bit of consistency in the games which they really should be winning, we'll see what happens after December. But let's finish off on Newcastle West Ham. It finished 2-0 to West Ham. Is that a result that saves Julian Lopetegui's job?
For sure.
At West Ham. Big result, really is, at St James's Park, where Newcastle really started to find some form within the season. Both of us went for 3-1 to Newcastle. This is probably, in terms of a result, probably the second biggest shock of the weekend after the Man City Spurs game. So you got to give credit to West Ham. I mean, I didn't see much of this game last night, but I was just shocked when I saw the result. Yeah,
really great counter-attacking display from West Ham. Took the lead fairly early on with Souček from a header from a corner, and therefore they defended really resolutely. And Newcastle did have a few chances, don't get me wrong, but they weren't clinical, they weren't ruthless. And West Ham, one of the best games for them this season in possession than I've seen from them so far, where they've looked passive, they've looked lethargic, they haven't looked proactive. What's interesting about this game is they ran 119 kilometres, which is second only to Tottenham when we played Man United at Old Trafford this season. And the next highest one for West Ham this season was 113. So they ran 6 kilometres more than in any other game. So I think that tells you maybe that this was definitely a game where they brought their efforts to another level. I think they ran way more than they've been running in a lot of other games. Paquetá was like a new player in this game because he's been terrible this season, but he was absolutely brilliant in this game. Bowen was more electric than I've seen him throughout the whole season, and they will just look. Their passing moves all of a sudden. They were knitting plays together. They were playing through Newcastle. They were creating chances. If anything, West Ham looked like they were going to get a third before Newcastle got a second. So real big credit to them. And before this game, they were saying 2 games to save his job, and Newcastle away and West Ham and Arsenal at home. You're thinking, he's gone. And what a start. A 2-0 win. I think at this point, even if they lose to Arsenal, he'll probably still stay in the job now. So that definitely has saved his job, I would say, for the time being anyway. And it's important for West Ham. They got to build on it because, it's all good winning this game. But if they lose the next 3, he's going to be under pressure again. So they have to build on it. But what a performance, and what a big way to get that win and finally enter the season, because they've been shocking for large parts of the season. Lopetegui has really not acclimatized his team, but maybe this was the first evidence that he's figured out, or the team is starting to figure out how Lopetegui wants to play, because they were so much better. Well, let's hope so, because their next game is Arsenal, so hopefully they're coming into form at the right time. But look, you've got to give credit to Lopetegui and West Ham for how they played, and maybe that's signs as well of the team really believing in Lopetegui, because when the chips are down, they really went the extra mile to really perform for him. So we'll see how it works there. But Newcastle, really poor result for them when they were kind of building ahead up steam, and they were on the back of wins against high-flying Forest and wins against Arsenal, and they go and lose to West Ham at home. You just can't make this up in this league, can you? Yeah, now it's instead of it was 2 wins on the trot before this game, and now after the loss, it's now 3 defeats in 5. So now it's interesting how narratives can turn for a team. And Newcastle, we've been saying for a lot of the season, their performances have been inconsistent, and then recently, starting with they beat Chelsea in the cup, and then a brilliant win against Arsenal, and then a brilliant win away at Forest. You're thinking, okay, maybe they're starting to turn a corner now, and maybe they've really found the balance. But this performance was a massive step backwards for them, and I feel like against low blocks, sometime they just don't. I don't know where the creativity comes from for them sometimes, because Gordon's definitely a player who likes to run in behind. He's very, very much a transitional player. Joel Linton, good player, but is he a player who's creative? Isaac, another player who's got pace, likes to run in behind. And Bruno Guimaraes, probably their most creative player. He's a deep line playmaker, plays in the six a lot of the time. So they don't really get him in those areas where he can get too many goals and assists. So I feel like when a stubborn team like West Ham comes up against them, they can struggle a bit, and they definitely did yesterday.
Yeah.
And also their back line, they had Kelly there and Hall, and
they just signed Kelly in the summer.
I know, but I'm saying it just didn't look as secure as it usually does.
Yeah. Who was out? Botman's still out.
Burn was out. Yeah. Trippier had to come on, but Livramento, his form has really dropped. Like, everyone thought he was a natural successor to Trippier, but at the moment he doesn't seem up to it for the time being.
Very young though, isn't he?
He is very young. Well, I'm just saying this season his form has dropped.
How old is he?
Quite 21?
A lot. 22?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's got time on his side, and Hall as well. The two young fullbacks. I do think they got a big future ahead of them, but maybe when you're asking them to finish in the top 4, top 5 this year, might be a stretch too far. Star men, Sim went for Nick Jackson, who got a goal, and I thought he got an assist, but it wasn't.
Well, it's interesting because you said Pedro got a goal and assist, and his assist was exactly the same as Jackson's assist.
Was it?
Oh no, sorry, you're right. No, actually, no. That's not right, because that was the first goal where Pedro scored. Anyway, only a goal for Jackson.
And Isaac, no goals, no assists. Unbelievable not to get anything against West Ham at home, but that leaves it very tight going into the busy period, which is December. 115 to 121. That is your review, the Prem, for this week. We'll see.
This is the period that separates the men from the boys.
100%, 100%. But what period really is the one that separates the men from the boys is the last week of the season.
Yeah, it's this period in the last week of the season.
But yeah, let us know we'll be back for predictions on Thursday. So thank you for joining us guys today. We'll see you next time.